The girl was a prostitute who couldn't even afford a meal. But by taking on the identity of her dead friend, she managed to sneak into the home of a noble lady. Since the lady had never met Ellie in person, she never suspected that the Ellie in front of her wasn't really her friend's daughter. When she saw the letter of introduction Ellie had stolen, the lady didn't hesitate to let Ellie stay. When the lady asked about the death of the father Ellie was pretending to have, Ellie deliberately acted heartbroken. Her pitiful look instantly stirred the lady's sympathy. After dinner, Ellie carried a lamp and began exploring the villa, but the butler stopped her, reminding her that her neckline was a little too low. Ellie hurried to fasten the button on her chest, but because of her former profession, she never thought she should turn her back while doing it. When she entered the study, she started reading books about Switzerland. So later, if the lady asked about the scenery there, Ellie wouldn't be left speechless. Years of habit had made Ellie used to sitting on the floor. Even if a sofa was right next to her, she still had no desire to sit on it. As she stroked the silky carpet, a maid pushed open the door and told her that her room was ready. Although the maid found Ellie's behavior improper, she chose to stay silent. The next morning, the lady took Ellie to church for the sermon. On the way home, she discussed the sermon's theme with Ellie. But Ellie didn't agree with her view, yet the lady didn't get angry. Instead, she thought Ellie wouldn't flatter her just to stay. While the maids were preparing for lunch, the lady in high spirits sat down at the piano. She said this was Ellie's father's favorite piece. Just as she was about to invite Ellie to play with her, the sudden arrival of a man broke the tension. On the way to the dining room, Ellie learned that the man was the lady's nephew. Because of her life in the slums, Ellie surprisingly clicked with Jason. Before dinner, the lady and Jason talked about the latest battles. Ellie just wanted to listen quietly, but the lady asked her to talk about the mountains of Switzerland. Although Ellie said there were no mountains near her home, she added that as soon as she opened her window she could see the Rhine. With Ellie's vivid description, both of them showed great interest. When the maid brought the food, Ellie once again escaped danger with her quick thinking. With lively Ellie by her side, the aging lady seemed rejuvenated. Even the butler who had served her for years was astonished. That noon, while a maid was changing the curtains in Ellie's room, she suddenly felt dizzy and nearly fell. When Ellie asked with concern, the maid lied, saying it was because she had skipped breakfast. But Ellie could already tell from her face that it was a lie.
Vous êtes enceinte?
Mademoiselle, je vous supplie.
N'ayez pas peur, je ne dirai rien.
Though Ellie wouldn't expose her, she advised the maid to end the pregnancy soon, or the lady would surely dismiss her if she found out. Even though the lady was kind to her now, Ellie knew once the lady learned she was an imposter, she would lose everything. That night, as she passed through the living room, she suddenly saw the maids lined up being scolded by the lady. It turned out the pregnant maid had been exposed. The lady claimed she couldn't tolerate lies, but Ellie knew she only thought her interests were being threatened. Watching the maids suffer serious consequences, Ellie kept reminding herself to stay calm. She thought this was just a small episode in life. But that day when the lady hosted a concert, Ellie saw someone she thought impossible to appear. While Ellie was reading poetry to the audience, a late arriving guest was led into the hall by the butler. But when Ellie saw his face clearly, she could hardly believe it, because he was the one she was sure was dead, and the very friend whose noble identity she had stolen.